Do you ever just have those days where in which you're just like, what is my life? Like, this is just so So like, hi, welcome to the What is K-pop podcast if you're new, and welcome back if you're not new. And today's actually Valentine's Day I'm going to release it today. So hi, Valentine's Day. The Max Changmin episode on his second EP, Devil, came out earlier. And I was actually just listening to it, and I said, I was just reviewing it, and I said about doing an episode all about my funny stories, my funny anecdotes from years gone by. So I thought I would just tell a few of them and just like talk generally about my life. So I did mention this. I was meant to go. I had booked an optician's appointment for myself at 9:05 in the morning, and that's like very, very early. That's quite early. But the thing is, and like I had prepared myself, but the thing is that my opticians that I used to go to, the opticians, it closed down kind of, but then it moved. I think it wanted to expand. And so instead of being in the same place it's been in my entire life, it moved like a couple of doors down to like this really quite narrow rectangular, instead of being a square store, it's now a rectangular store. And so I went in. Like, I was getting nervous anyway. We do the pre-eye test thing because we went to Specsavers. I'm not sponsored, by the way. And they do the balloon test. I don't even know what it's meant to test for. And then you can add on like an extra test for £5 to take a picture of the back of your eye and like see if there's anything wrong with them. And I had to get 2 done on my right eye and like 3 done on my left for some reason. And that was like stressful. Anyway, I was like kind of, when you just like, I was in one of those like, I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want to be anxious and stuff. And so I like go through and I say it with my mum. This guy comes out and he's like, Sophie. So I'm like, yeah, hi, that's me. Or at least I'm like, hello. And then he just wanders off. Dude doesn't. I'm just like, I'm right here. I'm literally here. And so he comes back and he's like, what? And he goes again. And he comes back and we're just like, hi, we're here. I'm Sophie. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. We're like, we were sat here waiting. And so I go in and I only have like one like test, I guess, done to for like one of the lines, and I was like, I'm sorry, but I can't do this, I'm too anxious. And he's like, oh no, that's fine, you can always rebook. So I got a picture taken of my eye, or the back of my eyes, for free, basically. It was really awkward. But thankfully, I wasn't too anxious, so I ended up going into my sister's work. So it wasn't too busy. And I ended up getting me and my sister, like, Valentine's Day presents and, like, nice balls of wool. And I got some daffodils, and my mum got, like, these Werther's Originals, which is, like, the classic grandma sweet that you have in the UK. So now my mum's just a grandmother. So that was funny. And then we went round to the pharmacist to get my dad's medication that he needed and got like emergency prescribed. And one of my old classmates' mothers was actually coming out to do the deliveries. And it was really awkward because like I didn't exactly clock that I knew her. Like, I don't know why, but like for some reason I just don't clock when I know someone now. And like they just started talking to my mum. And it was funny because we were just talking about her actually a couple of days prior, because my mum had like interacted with, obviously was talking about her a lot, talked to her a lot when we were in school, and we just happened to be talking about something to do with it. And we got onto the topic of her daughter, obviously, like one of my old classmates. And it was really awkward because me and her weren't friends. She actually used to bully me. And it was just incredibly awkward. And I was like, yay. And obviously my mum was talking about me and how I can't go outside and stuff. And she was talking about my old classmate and saying about how she's having struggles too. And like, honestly, I'm just like, yay, I'm not the only one who's struggling here. because obviously because when we finished school, when we were going into like college and stuff, that was the pandemic. Like we were in our first year during the pandemic of like college and stuff, and so we didn't really have the proper college experience. We then went into university and did like stuff, and now we're kind of, I say we, but I'm just generalizing of my classmates, we're now struggling to like find jobs and be secure in our mental health and all of that good stuff, because I always struggled with it all throughout school. I was always the anxious kid. There's a show in the UK, I don't know whether or not it's syndicated anywhere else, called Horrid Henry, and there's a character called Anxious Andrew and Weepy William, and they're best friends. And I was watching a video about Horrid Henry, the show, and the person was saying like, oh yeah, no, he's just anxious all of the time. And I never felt so seen by a teen children's TV program ever before in my life, because like I'm just perpetually anxious at this point. But it's a lot better than it could be, thankfully. But yeah, no, the stuff with the opticians, I'm like, my problem is like nowadays, I don't want to ever put myself into the situation where in which I'm embarrassing not only myself but also my mum. I'm fed up of being embarrassing and like creating like situations that mum has to like apologize for. So I know it's like kind of a bit like, well, why can't you just try again? But it's like, I don't want to like put myself in a situation where I'm having to like run out of an optician's because I can't cope with the pressures of walking past people. It's like trying to find that right balance of facing a fear like the opticians and cutting your losses. Yeah, that's my fun little life update for current Sophie. Yeah, on to like weird stories from my youth. One time I was in year 3 and it was during maths class. So I was sitting in like my maths classroom, and bear in mind we don't have like separate classrooms for like our class, like if it, I don't know how to like explain it. So we had 3 classes of 30 kids in each year, so we had about 90 kids in our school year, or like thereabouts, just the general estimates. So we only have like 3 year classrooms, and like the computer suite, the music, and the mobile. We called it a mobile, which was the music classroom, and then like the sports halls, and I think that was it. Yeah, no, that was it. And for every school year, obviously, there's like 3 classrooms, so pretty consistent. And so I was in one of the other classrooms having my maths class, and it was with the teacher that I would then have for year 4. So I don't know why I'm giving this extra bit of context, but we had maths. And I was kind of doing my maths and I was struggling with it. And I actually ended up swearing in, like, under my breath. I was like, for fuck's sake, why can't I do this? I've always struggled with maths and stuff. I even had Duolingo maths for a while, but like, Duolingo has gone a bit wacko and stuff, so I've just kind of given up with that. But I ended up swearing under my breath, and my old head teacher, I don't know, I think he's retired now, or he might have actually passed away, I don't know. He was very old when he retired, and he actually was like, oh, Sophie, you're struggling with that. Because he knew the students, well, not personally, like personally, but he knew all the students' names, and he knew me and my sister quite well because my dad helped with the audiovisual stuff sometimes. And so he like pulled up a chair and like sat down with me and actually helped me with my maths work a little bit. Like obviously he couldn't be there for like that long given the fact that he's, just monitoring the classes and making sure everything's all right and stuff. But that was a really, really weird little thing. And it was actually the head teacher after this that He apparently says, I can't confirm it given the fact that it's a bit bad, but he actually potentially might have had relations with a lot of the female staff members at the school. So he was apparently politely asked to leave. And now he's replaced with a very, very nice head teacher. I actually emailed him one time because it was like 10 years since I'd left. So I was like, well, give him a tinkle on the old blower and send an email. It's just an English saying. I'll give him an email and say like, "Hi, my name is Sophie. I used to attend the school. Like, thank you for taking it over. Like, just want to reach out." And like, he didn't respond for a few days after that, but I didn't know obviously that they were on half term. And then he got back to me on the Monday, and he was like, "That's actually the nicest email I've ever gotten. Thank you for that, Sophie. That was a real nice treat for a Monday morning." And I was like, "Thanks, son. You must get some absolute garbage." And he actually put me in touch with the alumni team. And oh my god, I actually talked shit about all the other bad stuff that I've done over the years. Because in that same, with that same teacher, actually, the maths teacher, he had us for year 3 and year 4. So this was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was because it was year 6 and year 4 in that block. So we were in a completely different area of this. I don't know why I'm saying different. I don't know why I'm giving you the aspects of the school, but yeah, no, we were in maths class and we were being taught about time and the concept of time moving forward, and we were tasked to when a minute was up. And so my little inventive ass decided that because of the fact that I had long hair and that my watch wasn't that visible, that when my teacher said, like, the challenge starts, that I will hide in my hair, watch the minute go by, and then sit down directly when the minute's up. And so I did that. My teacher didn't know this. He probably has found out now, or he might have, realised it at the time. But I was the only student who actually got the minute on the right time. And so he was like, "Oh, well done, Sophie. You were the only student actually sat down at the right time." And it's funny now because I can't not have any clock. I can't stand it not knowing what time is because I have terrible timekeeping anyway. But I just hate not knowing what the time is. And so I wrote that down on I did it on the email, and it has not appeared on the website yet, which I'm not surprised. I probably wouldn't put that on the website either, but I did think that was incredibly funny that I just did that. Yeah. So, I'm trying to remember. It's funny, as soon as I turn it on, I'm just like, I can't remember anything. Apparently, when I was in year 1, which I would have been about, I think I was 5. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was 5. During year 1, we were asked to sing our favourite songs. And at the time, obviously, because I was such a daddy's girl, I stood there while everyone sung like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or like some other cutesy little nursery rhyme. You know what I came out with? Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. So, I was stood there singing Let the Sun Beat Down Upon My Face, whereas everyone else was singing about fairies and stars and shit like that. And apparently, my teacher, because my dad's co-worker, apparently she went home and told her dad, so then he told my dad, and that she was just cackling inside because obviously it's not exactly the most normal thing for a 5-year-old to come out with. And that has definitely stuck with us and is often brought up in conversation. And also, on that same vein of Miss from my year 2 teacher, I actually this was back in the days when I used to be very impressionable and used to get bullied a lot. And these kids that I was in a group with learn about swear words. And they told to say them in front of my teacher. So apparently I did that, and she told me off, even though I didn't understand what I was saying. Which I'm like, yeah, fair enough, I deserve that. And again with this same teacher actually, because this teacher loved me. We were walking back from a school trip, like not like a massive one with like a coach or something. We'd stayed in the town and we must have been swimming or something. And I was the student at the front holding Mrs. hand, the teacher's hand, with my head held high, all strutting about and just being like amazing and like the best student. And like I look back on these things now and I'm just like, no wonder I was hated, you know? I was like the teacher's fucking pet. But the thing is that the teachers loved me. Like, I'm not trying to sound like brissy or anything, but the teachers genuinely did love me. And like they all wanted to adopt me pretty much. Which is like hilarious now given, you know, retrospect. But yeah, no, it was, yeah, I was definitely that kid that teachers wanted to take care of. There was another instance. This was towards the end, so like year 6, and I was in like the help, the what do you call it, like the system that tries to help kids who are a little bit don't take tests well, like try and learn to test better. I don't know how to explain it. I was in that group and we hadn't been told to go yet. We weren't, you know, like directly told to leave our lesson. So we just left our lesson, and our teacher let us, by the way, like he knew that we were going. And so like we were just sat there waiting for, it was actually this teacher person who ran these things, and like she did it all the time, like for every single year pretty much. So we were just sat there waiting, and this teaching assistant comes through and is obviously expecting that the little library, because we were sat in the library area, the small library, and she was like, oh, what are you doing outside the lessons? And it was back when I was gaining a little bit of confidence, which, I mean, for now, I'm just like, it's not good. Don't gain confidence, Sophie. And so I go, well, we're supposed to be here. And she's just like, excuse me. And I was like, this isn't good. And she's like, well, you're not supposed to be here. And she like kind of goes off on us. And so we just scuttle back to lesson. And it's like less than about 2 weeks later, this woman probably forgot what I looked like literally the second after I had left. But she actually came to the door of my classroom and was like chatting to the teacher. And I was like, shit, she's gonna recognize me. But no, she doesn't. She doesn't recognize me at all. Obviously, like now I understand that like when you see a kid, you've seen 1,000 kids, they just scuttle about. You don't remember kids' faces. I'm terrible with faces. And I'm terrible with names too. It's actually a problem. Like, there's a TV show on right now called The Apprentice. It's like, it was in America, or it was massive, and then it got cancelled, and it's come over here and since then and stuff. And it's about this guy trying to figure out who his next investor is going to be. It's a very weird show. And literally every single year, I still do not know what the candidates' names are by the end of it. And mind you, I have watched the show for 3 months at this point. It happens every week. So I've watched the show. I should know who these people's names are. But the thing is that because they say their names so fleetingly, and because of the fact that like the names, like they have their full names on there, I can't remember what the blooming names are. And this like issue came up again actually. This is like not primary school, but it was when I was at Poacher, which is like this camp thing, this jamboree thing that happens every 4 years at the Lincolnshire Showground, where in which like scouts, guides and all that stuff all come together. and they, celebrate for like a week and stuff. It's a very, very weird thing. And I went back in 2017 and I ended up following this girl that I knew was in my patrol around until she like stopped talking to her friend, and I was like, hello. And she was like, oh, hi, Sophie. And like expecting me to be like, hello, so and so's name. I've forgotten again now. And I was like, what's your name? And she was like, Sophie, I'm in your patrol. You're supposed to remember me. And I was like, I don't remember shit. I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. Like, it's actually really, really bad. It's also extremely funny too, to the point where I'm like, I don't even know how enough I'm remembering like my own name at this point. Because, I hear my name and I'm like, right, yeah, no, that's my name, because I'm often hearing my own nickname. It was so bad. And like, she actually ended up coming to my secondary school that next year, so the September of 2017. And she was like, what's my name? And I was like, her name. Back to her. And every single time she saw me, she would ask me if I remember her name. And I will admit, I did forget occasionally again, because it was like, I don't. The problem is that I don't remember it now. So it was like, it was just one of those problems where I'm like, I don't even know how I could even help myself in this situation, because like now I don't really go out, so I'm not remembering people's names. And like, normally if I don't know people's names, I'll just hang around them and then eventually I'll just remember their name, and like, it will be mentioned enough times. But at the support group I go to, they don't even call each other by their names. They just go up to each other and just start talking. So I'm not even learning people's names at this point. I have to be like, oh yeah, I know that one, and I know that one, and I know that one. And like, I have stories about these people, so I have to be like, oh yeah, no, this is the one that says the inappropriate jokes, and this is the one that loves Manchester City, and this is the one that wears the striped jumper. Like, I have to like call them that their names are not their names are just the things that I remember about them. It's actually really, really bad. And I'm sure they're like, but Sophie, you're autistic. Like, don't you have a really good memory? And I'm like, yes, I have a really good memory, but about really stupid things. Like, extremely stupid things. To the point where I'm like, why do I remember this one event extremely well? So, last story, going actually into secondary school just for a second. My old principal, so the guy that like was there from 2014 to 2019, which was when we went from year 7 to 11, he set in place a rule, a rule that said that students can't be going to the toilet during lesson time. And like, it's a normal school rule and stuff, and it's really annoying, but it's just one of those things. We're often told that in a workplace you can't just be going to the toilet whenever you want to. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can. They're not going to stop you. And also, like, when you're an adult, you can control your bladder a lot more than when you can as a kid. Like, you are able to not potentially piss yourself when you need the toilet. Oh, I love it. But we had our head teacher for history, because he was an actual history teacher before he then became a principal. That's also what they're called, principals. We just call it a head teacher. And so we had our head teacher as our history teacher. And so occasionally we would try it of just like, sir, can we go to the toilet? Can I go to the toilet? And he'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Sure, go. And like, we would try in a different lesson and it'd be like, no, you have to go at break time. Like, we can't be wasting lesson time. And it was it was just so incredibly stupid. And there was like a few instances actually, apparently, that kids from his other classes would be out during lesson time going to the toilet and stuff, like just about to enter the toilet, and the teacher will be like, where are you going? And they're just like, oh, I'm just going to the toilet. And they're like, why are you out of lesson? And like, why aren't you supposed to be in lesson? You're not supposed to leave. And they'd be like, oh, my teacher let me out. And it's just like, well, what teacher? And they'd be like, oh, the head teacher's name. They're just like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? And like, some of the old teachers used to get really defensive about it. And like, luckily things have changed since then. It's been like a decade, thank fuck. But yeah, no, there was like a few times when like we'd be trying to not we ourselves, and we go up to the teacher being like, sorry, can I go to the toilet? And they're like, no, you have to go at break time. But the thing is that they've actually shortened the first break time. No, they've extended the break time and then shortened lunch, because lunch went on for like 45 minutes, and for whatever reason, kids can't have 45 minutes for lunch, they can only have like 30, and they have to be able to have like 30 minutes for break time in the morning. From the fact that like 20 minutes was fine for us, we were able to cope. Like, we couldn't always get all of our jobs done in time. And like, you try and go to the toilet actually in between lessons, but even that you couldn't really fully do it, because of the fact that like you had to, sometimes you'd actually have to go from one side of the school to the other side of the school. And there was like even some like fucking tests done. I kid you not, there was tests done about this in, I guess, like 2010, of going from the very end of the playground to the very end of like where one of the entrances is, and they calculated it being 5 minutes. But I kid you not, that was probably done by a PE teacher without all of the rest of the kids in school, because sometimes those queues, those traffic jams, I kid you not, you would be stuck there for ages. And like, sometimes these classes, like, you would be running late, they would keep you late to explain something to you, or you'd be told off, and you'd be like, god, I need to pee as well, quickly, let's just try and do it. And then you'd end up being late, and then in trouble with that next class, which would then make you late for your own break time. So you're trying to get everything done, and then you just end up being perpetually late. And like, that was always something that I hated in school. I genuinely hated not being able to just go to the toilet and stuff, because it's like, it's not really disrupting your learning. What's disrupting my learning is the fact that my bladder is like full and I need to go and empty it. Like, I need to go to the toilet right now. So yeah, no, it was the British school system. British school system for you. Yeah, no, things weren't that much better in sixth form. Actually, one last thing. This is incredibly wrong. And now, like, I kind of see the fruit for the, well, I saw the fruit for a trees, but now I see the whole fruit platter. My teachers, specifically the Senko staff, actually sent out an email to my teachers telling them to stop me from going outside and going to the toilet, because I wouldn't go back in. And like, now I'm like, absolutely not, that is horrible. And like, even back then, I'm just like, I can't cope with that, I can't do that, I'm sorry, but you can't keep me in lesson when I'm clearly in distress. And like, now, if that happened to, like, if I knew what I knew now and back then, I would not go into the lesson. I would ask the teacher, are you going to stop me from leaving if I go in there? As soon as I step into that classroom, are you not going to let me out if I need to? And if they're like, yeah, we're not letting you back out if you go into the classroom and you have to come in, I'll be like, no, I'm sorry, but no. Like, I just wouldn't go in. And it's like, I understand why it was like that, because of the fact that like, I was a kid. You don't know if I'm safe or not if I'm not in the classroom. I understand like as like a grown adult, but I also can understand it from like, child perspective of being that kid. And I'm like, this is so unsafe for me, because what if I'm in sensory distress and I'm like having an active panic attack and I can't get out and I'm like having a meltdown? Like, now I understand that I was in like probably meltdown. I was like having continuous meltdowns, and no wonder I was tired, because I was in distress and they just didn't see that. And like, I actually legit like was stopped often from leaving. And like, there was a time when my form tutor actually stood in front of the classroom door to stop me from leaving. And like, obviously I'm not saying it to like prove a point or anything, but like, there were a lot of times when people were saying, like my classmates were saying, she needs to leave. Like, she's having a panic attack. She's got to go. And they were like, no, I'm sorry, but we can't. You can't. She can't leave. And that is so scary to me now. And like not being able to leave a situation and being like feeling that way that I did as a kid again. Like, I can't do that. I can't put myself into that situation again. And I guess that's why, like, now I'm kind of hesitant about, like, going to appointments because I don't want to ever, and I mean ever, be in a situation where I'm stuck in a situation and, like, physically being prevented from leaving because I actually know what that feels like and it is so scary. And I hope that in the future, I really hope in the future when I have my own kids that like mental health awareness and like acknowledgement and like treatments are so much better for like kids in schools. Like there are so many kids that have depression, anxiety, all of these issues. And you might think to yourself, like, no, they're adult issues. Those kids aren't depressed. They are. There are a lot of kids that deal with this stuff, and like we are often hiding it, and then when it will bubble up and it will come to the surface, and there is nothing that can be done to prevent that, and they need help, like even if it is just chatting to like a teacher, or sitting out of like a lesson or something, or just like, I don't know, being a bit kinder to students. Like these kids are our future. We might be saying like, oh, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, they're gonna be horrible. Like, yeah, because we're making them that way. Millennials and Gen Z, we're not helping anything. Like we're really the generation that can make the change, that like we can undo all the bad stuff that happened because of like baby boomers and Gen X and all of these people did before us. Like we can do the change and we should be changing. And I've got to go. Bye.